I started dating Daniel 2.5 years ago, and we married last year. Daniel has 5 kids with his ex-wife, Ava tween, Jason pre-tween, Isabella young child, Sophia young child, and Andrew toddler. Daniel's ex never liked Ava. She blames Ava for leaving her trapped in a relationship with her dad. When they divorced, she said she didn't want anything to do with Ava. Ava was 8 years old at the time. Ava's mom left, but had a relationship with her siblings, which destroyed her. She had to go to the hospital 3 times over the first 4 months. She didn't sleep or eat and would have panic attacks at school. The week Ava's siblings were there with their mom was the hardest because it was a constant reminder that her mom loved her siblings and not her. She would barely get out of bed those weeks. So around 2 years ago, I surprised her with a day trip to the beach. I bought her a cute swimsuit. We got ice cream, we went boogie boarding, went out to eat, and went shopping. It was the first time I'd seen her smile in weeks. After that, I noticed it was helping Ava, so we started going out more. When her siblings are here, it's something small like dinner before therapy, but when they're not here, we go camping, we go hiking, try new restaurants, go back to the beach, etc., and she loves it. I don't spend nearly as much one-on-one time with the other 4 kids for 2 reasons. These kids already have a mom that loves them, and they don't need it as much. It is so much easier to do anything with 1 kid than 5. When I spend time with Ava, I stick her in my Honda and we go. When I have all 5 kids, we take a big passenger van, and they fight over everything. Going somewhere takes twice as long because I have to keep pulling over and break up a fight. I take all kids out 1 to 2 times a week when they're with us, but it's not usually a big trip like what I do with Ava. We'll go to the beach 20 minutes away instead of the one almost 2 hours away. We'll go on the walking trail by our house instead of a 4-mile hike. Sometimes we have picnics in the park. The big thing this summer is the amusement park. I'll take all of the kids with their dad or their nanny. We'll go on some rides together. Then one of us will take the 2 older to go on all the scary rides they want, while the other takes the younger 3 to the kiddie rides that the older 2 are way too big and mature to go near. Then we meet up at the water park. We've done this at least once a week this summer. Recently, my husband asked me to start taking the younger 4 on day trips, like the kind Ava and I go on, because they're starting to get jealous. I said I'll try to plan more fun activities, but my trips with Ava aren't suitable for all 5 kids. He said I should try to treat the kids equally and either not take Ava or take everybody. I said I will when he takes all 5 kids camping or on a 4-mile hike by himself. He called me a bad stepmom, so I wanted to know if I was the idiot. Not the idiot. That poor little girl. You may not have come up with a perfect solution for helping this child, and it may be unfair to her siblings, but you're putting a hurting child first. She's lucky to have you. If anything OP does is unfair, it's caused by the unfair behavior of the biological mother. Therefore, trying to help and balance out an unfair situation shouldn't be called unfair. That would be excusing the root problem. Ava's mom should never be referred to as her mother ever again. That woman disgusts me more than I've ever been disgusted at a person before. She's the biggest idiot of them all. So your husband's okay with Ava's mom disowning her, but he's not okay with you trying to make up for it to make her happy and feel loved. That is so messed up. I can see the other kids viewing it as unfair. However, Ava needs a mother, and they just need a stepmother. They weren't abandoned. Their dad should realize this. In the long run, the others might be grumpy, but you're going to save Ava a lot of trauma by being there for her. Are we sure the other kids aren't being harmed somehow by their mother? I'd be shocked if the mother hasn't recast someone in Ava's role of scapegoat. I'm still pondering her logic. She wants nothing to do with her oldest daughter, blaming the daughter for her being trapped by the girl's father, but then goes on to have 4 more kids with him? The bio mom seems unhinged and shouldn't have alone time with any of these kids. When my husband Ty and I were wedding planning and looking at cakes, his sister Jen suggested we use a friend who bakes and decorates cakes and runs her own small business. We said yes, as we both support small locally owned businesses, and the friend, Cass, seemed good at what she does. I have celiac, and prefers certain gluten-free flours over others. Cass was cutting us a good deal on the cake, so Ty and I agreed we'd pay for the ingredients, have them delivered to Cass, and we'd pay for the cake when it was delivered to our wedding and give her a generous tip. The wedding day came. The cake was beautiful, but not quite what we asked for. We asked for a sunflower-themed cake with white fondant. This one had rose gold fondant and blue wildflower decorations. As Ty and I were cutting the cake, Cass was standing near us and kind of whispered the cake was not gluten-free and for me not to eat it, but she'd grabbed a few gluten-free chocolate chip cookies for me so I wouldn't be left out entirely. So I didn't even try my wedding cake. The cookies were okay, but it wasn't the same, and I had a hard time hiding my disappointment. But we did end up pulling Cass aside to ask her what happened. She explained she got swamped, had other gluten-free orders come in, and used all the gluten-free flour we had sent her, and ended up forgetting about our cake until a few days before the wedding, so she put it together with the extra stuff she had lying around. Cass apologized that the cake wasn't exactly what we asked for, but said she ran out of sunflowers and plain white fondant, but felt the rose gold and blue wildflowers worked just as nicely, even if it didn't match our wedding theme. Ty and I told Cass we appreciated and accepted her apology and explanation, but we wouldn't pay for a cake we didn't order and I couldn't eat. However, we did offer to reimburse her for gas money and pay a delivery fee because she did drive an hour to bring the cake to our wedding. Cass was upset and told us never mind and said people are always trying to take advantage and screw over small business owners before walking away. Later, Jen talks to us and is upset because Cass was sitting outside alone and was in tears. Apparently, she was counting on the money she expected from us to help pay for some stuff. Jen said that we're being unreasonable and unfair because even if the cake wasn't perfect, Cass put a lot of time and effort into making something that nice, and we failed to appreciate and compensate for her hard work. Am I the idiot? Man, I was totally expecting some insane bridezilla BS, but after reading this, just wow. Am I to understand that you paid for special gluten-free ingredients to be sent to her, and she then used those ingredients to fulfill other gluten-free orders? She stole from you. She forgot about your cake and then put one together with whatever supplies she had? She never treated your cake like a real job. You were never a real client to her. There's no reason for you to treat her like a professional because she never treated you like she would the clients she used your flour on. I would be asking to be reimbursed for the flour she used for the other clients, not giving her money. You are not the idiot. Can you imagine walking into your remodeled kitchen, looking at the vinyl flooring, and asking where the tiles you provided for installation were? And the contractor said they used your tiles on another project, but the vinyl was just as pretty and took the same time to install, so you need to pay for their services. I wouldn't pay a dime. Oh my God, this is such a good analogy. It is a scam used by contractors, charging Bob for materials and using them in their construction. Your sister's trying to keep the pace, not to ruin her friendship, which I guess I get. But if I provided a source for something special for a family member, I'd be mortified if my friend did this. My son was born on my mom's birthday, and I knew it would turn into a crap show from day one. My wife felt strongly that our son should not have to share his birthday and that children come first. I agreed that I wouldn't be prioritizing my mom over our son on his birthday. Still, without my consent, my wife told my mom that in a rather aggressive fashion, and my mom says she didn't care, but we better not guilt her for not being available on that day. This has led to a Cold War filled with silent judgment. My mom made a brief appearance for his first birthday, but that was it. He's now a young child, and every year, I feel like everyone hates everyone. My wife makes snarky comments about my mom for celebrating on the day and the following Saturday. My sister and her fiancé are cold to me. Last year, there was a blow-up because my mom's husband wanted a logical explanation as to why I couldn't hang out with them when my son was sleeping. I couldn't rationalize it, so he called me names and hung up on me. It's almost their shared birthday, but this one is a big one for my mom, 50, and I really want to be there. I talked to my mom and asked if she would consider moving the date so that I could be there. She told me I was rude and said, "Who even asked that?" I explained that my son has to come first, and he's a kid, so it's important that he feels special. My mom said he's my kid, that it's my responsibility, and of course she isn't moving her party. I did get a tiny bit emotional about how much I miss her, and I never see her due to the bad blood with my wife. My mom said I was guilt-tripping her, and her birthday isn't about me. She left in a bad mood, and now everyone is furious with me. I've been called a misogynist. They think I think she should put the kid first because that's what women do. I never said that. Selfish, egomaniac, and whipped. I didn't think she'd take the conversation as badly. You are the idiot. Impossible to know exactly how this started, but from your wording, it sounds like your wife caused all of this because she wanted your child's birthday to be only his. It's not. No birthdays are only one person's day. I'm shocked you all didn't think it was awesome and just shared the day. What's wrong with you all? Why are you making this a problem? It could have been a fun day for everyone or a fun 2 days over a couple of weeks, but you and your wife turned it into a childish contest. Don't be surprised when people cut you off. Why should they be flexible when you're myopically focused on some ridiculous power play? What would you do if your child was born on Christmas? Nobody celebrates Christmas in this house. It's my son's birthday, and today is all about him. Your mom nor your son can control what day they were born, and both deserve to be celebrated equally. There were so many options here, rather than you and your wife being selfish idiots. My wife and I have been married for 1 year and together for 3. Before getting together, she was a maid for my brother and me. When we started dating, she chose to continue with the housework instead of working since she'd been doing it for so long and didn't mind. So she's basically been a stay-at-home mom for most of our relationship while I work. Yesterday I messed up my shirt during lunch, so I took it off and asked her to put it in the wash ASAP since it was a new shirt while I went to look for another one and get to work. I literally said, "Would you please quickly put this in the wash now?" Maybe I had urgency in my voice since the time was against me, but I wasn't demanding. She just stared at me when I dropped it next to her. On my way out, I told her not to forget to fix the spare room since both of our parents are coming over on Friday, and she went off on me about bossing her around and that she isn't my maid anymore. So I asked what the point of her staying at home if she wasn't interested in housework was. She should get a job if she's over it, and she stormed off. It's not like I'm asking to be waited on at a snap of a finger or asking her to do much. I also help out when I can and rarely ask for personal favors, like the shirt. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. If my husband did this, he would be single. I feel like the line between maid and wife has been significantly blurred for you, considering she was once your actual maid. Everyone deserves respect, and if this is how you treat your maids, you lack even that. Yes, I wouldn't treat my actual maid with such disrespect. Dropping it on the floor next to her is like snapping your fingers at her. Honestly, dude, I'm not sure how else to interpret you shoving a shirt at her. Like, do you not think she knows how to get out of stain? She's your wife. Why did you marry her if you don't like her? Is this a joke? So, info. You turned your maid into an intimacy maid and now a wife, and you want her to go from a paid employee to an unpaid employee that you get to have intimacy with. God, this is dripping with entitlement. Have fun with the divorce. I, 20 female, have a cousin, 27 female, Jess. I don't really like Jess. Jess isn't a nice person, especially to me. She would pick on me and make fun of me whenever we had family gatherings. I was really insecure about myself as a child, and Jess knew this and used this information as an opportunity to make fun of my weight, face, hair, etc. I've always been a tomboy, and Jess seemed to think that automatically meant I was gay, and she would spread this false info around. When I, a young teen at the time, went to confront Jess, she said that if I didn't want people to think I was a lesbian, maybe I shouldn't dress like one. Over the years, I've avoided Jess when possible, but my parents seem to think that no matter what, family's forever. So essentially, I'm forced to be around her. Now Jess is a nurse. I'd always hoped that even if she's mean to me, maybe she's not so bad at her job where she's forced to have a professional demeanor. I was wrong. We were recently at a family member's wedding, and Jess was seated at my table. I wasn't directly next to her, but I was within earshot, so I could hear everything. Jess was talking about her job, more specifically, the people who she must interact with at her job. These included an underage pregnant girl she referred to as a loose girl, spreading rumors about a few coworkers, saying that one of them wanted to have intimacy with the patient, calling the elderly old hags, and some needless other crap. Naturally, this was making the rest of the people at my table very uncomfortable. After listening to Jess's tirade, I lost my temper. Her saying all that crap triggered me. I asked her, "So did you become a nurse simply to have control over others? Or is there something I'm missing here?" She laughed and said, "Oh wow, someone's offended as usual." I said, "Do you expect me not to react after you've been sitting here saying horrible things about people who come to you for help?" Jess said, "Sweetie, you obviously aren't a nurse because otherwise you would know that most of us talk like this, especially when we have to deal with idiots like yourself all day. So welcome to the real world." I said, "If that's true, then I hate nurses like you. I hope you lose your job." She goes, "Well, at least I actually have a real job. You're probably going to be on the streets." I ran off to the bathroom, and a few of my other cousins had to follow me and calm me down. I don't know if anyone talked to Jess, but frankly, I don't care. My dad had heard about what had happened, and he said that I simply should have just kept those thoughts to myself, especially during a wedding reception, since I could have easily ruined it if the both of us had gotten into a full-on screaming match. Also, he had heard about me explicitly saying that I hated nurses like her, and that I shouldn't have said that because, at the end of the day, even if they are bad people, they are sacrificing themselves and doing their job. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She's the worst kind of nurse. I can easily imagine her withholding care because she doesn't approve of the patient or thinks the patient is lying. Watch her social media. If she says the same stuff on it, send it to the state licensing board or whatever overseeing committee. Jess is a bully, and she deserves to be put in her place. Your dad was wrong that you could have ruined the wedding. Just managed to do that all by herself. And the fact that she's family shouldn't give her a pass. Yeah, Dad's an enabler. Probably not the only one either. I was recently at the hospital for 8 days, and although nearly everyone was great, there were 2 extremely mean nurses who made a traumatizing experience even worse for me. There's simply no excuse for any nurse to act like that towards their patients, who are often in a vulnerable position. She is in the wrong profession. Please get in touch with your cousin's place of employment and let them know she's doing this. Everyone's the idiot here. Jess sounds like a real piece of work, but guests at a wedding need to suck it up and put their disputes on hold, no matter how legitimate, for the few hours the wedding lasts. You are there to support the bride and groom, not have a go at each other. Agree. She sounds awful and inappropriate, and OP sounds like they don't know when to suck it up and not poke the bear. It's a wedding reception. You sit there, eat your dinner, chat politely with each person at the table about how lovely the bride is and how wonderful the wedding was and other happy topics, and keep everything light and polite. It's not the time for debate, deep discussion, or drama. I'm male 30, live with my wife, 30. We both work full-time jobs and have 3 kids, a toddler and 2 young grammar school children. I used to work from home with flexible hours, but I've been offered a promotion that requires me to go to work in person. The pay increase is significant, so my wife and I agreed I should take the promotion and hire a part-time nanny for our kids. I got in touch with a nanny agency, and they matched us with someone who lives locally. They only told us her first name, which was a common name anyway, but for the sake of storytelling, we'll say her name's Sarah. I spoke to Sarah on the phone and she seemed really nice. We arranged a day for her to come over and meet my wife and the kids, and for us to show her around the house. When the day came around and we met her, it turned out that my wife already knew Sarah. It was really awkward. I was surprised to find out how they knew each other afterward. My wife told me that back when she was in high school, her boyfriend at the time had cheated on her with Sarah, who was in her class. She wasn't enthusiastic about it, but my wife didn't seem to have a problem with Sarah being our nanny. Our kids love her, and she has lots of experience and is available when we need her. After a couple of weeks with no issues, my oldest two kids came to me and said they didn't want Sarah to come back. I asked them why, and they said that she was evil. I asked why they thought she was evil, and our middle child started crying and said that Sarah was mean and wanted to hurt mommy. I talked to my wife in private, and at first she had no idea what the kids were even talking about and said that it must be because of something Sarah did. When I pressed it, my wife admitted that she told the kids that Sarah was evil. She said she knew it was a ridiculous plan, but she was hoping I'd fire her. My wife asked me to fire the nanny because their history makes her uncomfortable. I asked why it wasn't an issue before. My wife said she just needed to think about it, and she's decided that Sarah has to go. I told my wife that we could find another nanny, but until then there was no reason to get rid of Sarah, and that she was out of line trying to weaponize the kids against her when Sarah was no danger to them. My wife disagreed and said we needed to fire Sarah ASAP and hire a temporary babysitter until we could find another nanny. She said that she wasn't weaponizing the kids, she was just setting boundaries. This turned into a really heated argument, and I called my wife insecure and controlling and told her she needed to go to therapy. My wife said I'm being inconsiderate of her feelings and need to put myself in her shoes. This was one of our biggest arguments in a very long time, and I just want a neutral opinion on whether I was wrong. Not the idiot, and her behavior disturbs me. I can't imagine causing my children to fear for their safety or their mother's safety because of my own insecurities from high school. I mean, the manipulation and abusive behavior is disturbing. If the truth is not corrected for those kids, they could end up believing Daddy hired an evil person to get rid of Mommy. I think firing her because of the wife's behavior and issues could lead to legal ramifications, slander, and wrongful termination. Yeah, the wife should have said no to begin with. I don't buy the trial period. If it was really about having a change of heart, why go to the trouble of lying to your kids about the nanny in hopes she would be fired? To me, this seems deliberate. She's getting revenge against the girl who cheated with her ex. I bet she hoped her husband wouldn't find out about the lie and then give Sarah a bad review. I absolutely agree here. She wanted to hire Sarah just to fire her later to get some petty revenge for a childhood grudge, and she was okay with needlessly frightening her own children to do this. She used her children as tools of manipulation to get what she wanted, all over something that happened in high school. I have legitimate concerns for your children, OP. It was so easy for your wife to use them, like she didn't even have to think long or hard about it, and she did it with no remorse, which would lead me to believe this hasn't happened maybe just once or twice before, but is a tactic your wife uses whenever she feels it would help her get her way. Just know, OP, if you do get divorced, she will 100% manipulate the kids against you too. My father passed away when I, male 26, was 22, and my sister, 29, was 25. With this in mind, after getting engaged, my sister asked me if I would do the honor of walking her down the aisle. At first I was elated, and I so enthusiastically agreed. But things quickly changed after my sister realized my wife was pregnant. In the preceding months, my sister made my wife's life a nightmare, who initially had been one of her bridesmaids, but was relatively recently informed that she would not be one. Originally, it was fine, but as my wife's pregnancy became visible, my sister would at times taunt her and make rude comments towards her. During her bachelorette party, just a few days ago, she even yelled at her because she was ruining her fun by being too distracting and not drinking. I kid you not. The ensuing onslaught resulted in my wife being removed as one of her bridesmaids. She even left my pregnant wife on the side of the road as my sister made her way to a party planned, in part, by my wife and in a limousine paid for by me. This, coupled with the fact that she had asked me recently to ask my wife to stay at home because her pregnancy will take attention away from her on her special day, just broke me. So I called her up yesterday after I found out what she had said to my wife, and I told her that I would not be attending the wedding and that she'd have to find someone else to walk her down the aisle. That's when the calls began. Everyone's been calling me, telling me that I'm overreacting and intentionally trying to sabotage her wedding. She even called to yell at me and told me she had always hated that witch, while referring to my wife. I told her to screw off. My mother's been extremely sympathetic toward my wife, and she agrees with me. My wife has been crying over this, and she's received an onslaught of messages. I blocked all my relatives, except my mother, and I'm planning a trip to Disneyland for my wife and me on the day of my sister's wedding, as I already booked the days off from work, and Disney's where my wife and I went on our first date when we lived in LA. This news has started its own onslaught. Nevertheless, am I the idiot? Whoa. Not the idiot, but has your sister been like this before? This sounds like it's beyond bridezilla. I give the groom 3 years, tops. Totally agree. Your sister sabotaged her wedding. I'm surprised that the other bridesmaids didn't pull out and that the groom still intends to marry her. Maybe they are birds of a feather. Of course, he may not have been told the truth about why you pulled out. Who leaves a pregnant woman on the side of the road and blames her for being a party pooper because she will not drink? A distraction for showing her bump? The whole wedding party on the bride's side are such idiots for allowing this bullying too. There's a line where even the bride has to be told to stop. Frankly, after what you described, I would only be on speaking terms with her once she apologizes big time to your spouse. And anyone who takes the sister's side after hearing the full story can screw off as well. You stood up for your wife when it was easier to go along to get along. Good job. Y'all will have fun at Disneyland. She doesn't deserve either of you at the wedding. I have a bit of a dilemma. My 27 female grandmother died 4 years ago. When she got engaged to my grandfather, he gave her a 21-karat gold ring with diamonds and a ruby in the center. That ring was eventually passed to my dad when he prepared to propose to my mom. As far as I know, she never took the ring off, and the ring was returned to my dad when my mom passed. Recently, my partner and I of 3 years have been talking about getting engaged. I asked my dad about the ring, and he agreed that if I ever got engaged, I would inherit the ring. Well, last night I told my boyfriend about the ring and how it was passed on. He said his daughter, Tween, who's from a previous relationship, would love to inherit it eventually. I explained that she wouldn't be getting the ring since she's not my bio daughter, and that if my baby wants it when she's older, she will inherit it. This caused a massive argument, in which my partner called me a witch and said that I was treating his daughter differently because she's not blood. Things might be different if I actually had a relationship with her, but I don't. I've only met her once in person and honestly don't know her that well. She has no attachment to the ring, but my daughter will since it'll be her grandmother's and great-grandmother's ring. I made a point of saying to him if he proposed to me with it, I'd return it to my dad for safekeeping. So, am I the idiot? So you're going to marry someone who called you a witch? Pay attention, OP. I've been married for longer than you've been alive, and my husband has never once called me a witch, even during our worst arguments. Run. She won't run. She's going to marry someone she's been with for 3 years, but has only met his child once, even though they have a child together. Neither one of them are ready for marriage. This is a mistake. This relationship has red flags all over it. Really, OP? Have you been with someone for 3 years and met his daughter once? Are you saying he and you have no relationship with his daughter, and he thinks she should inherit your mother's ring? That's delusional. The ring is yours. You don't owe him a thing. And why did you sit there and let him call you names? Even if you had a relationship with his daughter, she's not entitled to that ring. If it was me, that conversation with my boyfriend would be the last one we ever had. Seriously, he thinks that his daughter, who he apparently doesn't even raise, has any rights to it? It would be your ring regardless. Don't give it to him to propose to you. If it remains yours 100% unattached, then he can't dictate who receives it or when. I'm not even sure you should get close to that point if he's calling you names over this. I promise you that marrying this man will be one of your biggest regrets. My sister's staying with us while her divorce processes. It's been a pretty big adjustment for everyone, but for some weird reason, she's butting heads with my kids particularly. She's their aunt, and I agree they should respect her, but I don't like how she acts like an authority figure to them. My youngest is a toddler, so if she sees him doing something he isn't supposed to be doing, it's helpful for her to correct him at the moment, but I don't want her making her own rules. As for our teenager, I'd prefer if she just came and talked to us. My husband and I have 2 cars. We allow our son to drive in any car in the driveway, unless we tell him we need the car at a certain time. My sister kept telling him he needed to ask before taking the car, and they even argued about it a few times. My husband and I told her to stop, but she was worried she might need the car, and it wouldn't be there. We told her to stop, or we wouldn't let her borrow our cars at all. She also keeps telling our toddler to pick up his toys while he's still playing with them. We don't make him pick up his toys until he's done playing, unless it's bedtime or we need to go somewhere. He gets frustrated when she tells him to do things he knows he doesn't have to do, and then he yells at her, and she tells him not to yell at adults. Again, we told her to stop and leave the room if she's so unhappy about a situation. Last night, my son was in the kitchen making himself something to eat after practice, and she told him to eat a vegetable. He didn't respond, and she went to the fridge and grabbed a bag of carrots. She tried to dump them in the pot, but he pulled the pot off the stove, and the carrots went everywhere. She was upset at the mess and food waste. He asked her if she would clean up the carrots because they were in his way. She told him off for being disrespectful and said he needed to clean it because it was his fault. He said she was being a crazy witch, and then they started yelling at each other. I ran in and they shouted over each other to tell me what had happened. I asked my sister to leave so I could clean up and my son could finish cooking. She was mad I didn't make him clean it and said I was a bad mom. I told her that wasn't for her to say, and that if she wanted to parent our kids, she should have had some because mine don't need another mother. She walked away, and my son said he'd clean the kitchen, so I went to talk to her. She was crying and asked why we all hated her so much. I know my sister and ex-husband did plan on having kids before things broke down in their relationship. I feel bad for throwing that in her face. It wasn't my intention, but I got so frustrated. Am I a horrible sister? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Trying to rule the roost in someone else's house and bossing the kids around is inappropriate. She's a guest, not an extra parent. If she was this boundary challenged in her own marriage, a small wonder her husband is divorcing her. Your sister clearly has some major control issues. I know a lot of people tend to control things they wouldn't ordinarily when they feel out of control. It's possible the divorce has her in this headspace, but that still doesn't make it right. Sit down with her and reaffirm your love for her, but draw the boundary that she cannot discipline your kids or give them orders. Encourage her to talk to a therapist if that seems too hard for her. Agreed. She feels so out of control in her own life that she's over-controlling to stop herself from feeling so powerless. And the carrot incident? Really? Offering some carrots is okay. Forcing it into someone's food is really not okay. She needs to learn some boundaries with OP's family. If not, she shouldn't be allowed in OP's house, which is supposed to be a safe space for kids who are the rightful occupants. I have a tween daughter with my ex-husband. After our divorce, his sister moved in with him to help him raise our daughter. My ex-sister-in-law and I never really got along. She can't have any kids, and she was always jealous of me because she loves kids. Now she acts as if she's my daughter's mom. When my daughter was younger, she called her mom for a while, but I corrected her and taught her to say aunt instead. Last night, my daughter came out of her room in the middle of the night and asked for her iPad. We take it away at night to make sure she doesn't play with it instead of sleeping. I asked why, and she said she had a bad dream and wanted to talk to her mom. I was devastated. I told her I was her mom, and I'd help her to go to sleep, but she insisted on talking to her aunt, so we allowed it. I didn't say anything to my daughter, but this morning I called my ex-sister-in-law and told her she needs to stop acting like my daughter's mom. She's not her mom. I am. And if she tries to do this again, I'll take them to court and get more custody because I think that they're alienating my child. She called me an idiot and a jealous witch for trying to ruin their relationship and basically implied that I couldn't do anything about it and she wasn't going to change things. Am I the idiot for trying to change things? Edit. I get her every other weekend and her dad gets her the rest of the time. This custody arrangement has been for the past 9 years. I chose a custody agreement that was better for her, and I tried to spend as much time with her as I could. I think we have a pretty good relationship, but I bet it could be better if my ex-sister-in-law stopped acting like her mom. I try to at least have a few free hours to spend with her, but it's never enough for her. I'm sick of "my auntie's a better mom. She would play with me" comments. Her aunt is a stay-at-home mom and nanny, so she has a lot of free time, but I don't. Children don't call their nannies mom. What else am I supposed to do? Definitely not the idiot. Go to court. Under no circumstances should another woman lead a child to think she's her mom. This woman seems mentally unwell to allow your daughter to call her mom. Serious question. Would the courts actually intervene in something like what the kid calls her aunt? Like, how would they enforce that? This is messy and not good for the child. On the one hand, the child trusts the aunt/mom and sees them as mom. On the other hand, it could be considered alienation. What is best for the child? OP has a daughter every other weekend, while the father has primary custody. Aunt is the primary caretaker and primary mother figure in this girl's life. It just sounds like the kid is closer to her aunt than OP and prefers her aunt to be her mother figure. Just because OP gave birth doesn't mean she's a good mother. For all we know, she wasn't in her daughter's life all that much and is just jealous that another woman has stepped up as a proper mother figure. OP only sees her own daughter 4 days a month, and she doesn't want to fight for custody, but her jealousy over another woman taking better care of her daughter suddenly makes her want to fight for custody? I don't think OP is faultless here. I feel like if OP were a man, we'd be calling her a deadbeat for only spending a few hours every other week with their kid and saying it's the best they can do. You are the idiot, OP, an absentee idiot. My female 25, husband's 30, brother-in-law 33, moved in with us after his divorce a few weeks ago. The problem I have is that he started barging into the bathroom whenever I was using it. He never knocks or anything. Another thing is that he only does this when it's me in the bathroom, not his brother. I told my husband what I'd noticed, but he laughed it off and called me paranoid. It was embarrassing because his brother would see me exposed, making me uncomfortable. My husband said that he spoke to him and he apologized but did it again. When my husband and I got married, we promised not to have locks or lock each other out of any room, so the bathroom didn't have a lock. I was considering getting it a lock, and I let my husband know that if his brother walked in on me in the bathroom one more time, I would instantly install a lock. He didn't say anything. Well, yesterday, my brother-in-law walked in on me showering. He knew I would be in the shower but barged in anyway, claiming he needed to pee. I had enough. I went out and got a lock and installed it. My husband got home, saw it, and blew up on me, saying that I violated an agreement that I was part of and went against his wishes, being uncomfortable with locks in the house. He demanded I remove it and promised and guaranteed that his brother wouldn't walk in on me again, but I refused. He's been angry about it and is giving the silent treatment. Info: I'm not close with my brother-in-law, my husband is. I don't even talk to him much, and I barely even sat with him at any gathering before he moved in with us. So, am I the idiot for installing a lock? Edit: my brother-in-law's divorce ended due to him getting caught cheating with a woman 10 years younger than him. Everyone judged him for it, but my husband was the only one who backed him up and defended him. Moreover, he blamed his ex-sister-in-law and called her an idiot just because she was dealing with a difficult pregnancy last year and couldn't, quote, work on fixing the issues in her marriage. Not the idiot. The no locks thing was an agreement between you and your husband. However, when his brother moved in, It wasn't you and your husband anymore. Therefore, the agreement came to a halt. Tell your husband the lot can be removed as soon as his brother moves out. Doesn't it bother you that your husband backed up his cheating brother, who was clearly at fault, and now your husband's defending his brother at your expense? OP, I hope you realize that you not only have a creepy brother-in-law problem, but you also have a husband problem. I can't even imagine any husband thinking it's not creepy that his brother barges in on you while you're naked in the shower. Does everyone have that privilege? Friends, neighbors, or is that only reserved for the males in the family? So bad. Exactly. I'm concerned for your safety. That's not normal behavior from either of them. Violated an agreement? That's ridiculous. Your husband cares about controlling you. That's all. And your brother-in-law is obviously up to no good, and he needs to go. It's not innocent. You're not being paranoid. You are being gaslit by the sounds of it, though. I don't normally advocate for divorce, but maybe you should consider it. Your husband should be making you his number one priority, period, which means your comfort and safety in your own home. You told him that you would put that lock in if your brother-in-law decided on being a peeping Tom again. So he yelled at the wrong person. He should be yelling at his brother and kicking his idiot self out of your house. Throw him in the bin. Both of them, actually. You should download one app that looks for hidden cameras and scan your house. Something is definitely weird about all of this, and it's not you. Update. Before I provide an update on this situation, it's worth noting that my brother-in-law used to do this with the bedroom too, but at least I'm not always exposed in the bedroom. So my husband came home and I told him the lock would not be removed till his brother left, and his reaction was to try and remove the lock himself and to tell me to quit acting childishly. I did not shout or scream, but packed a bag and went to my mom's house for the next few days until this was resolved somehow. On my way out, I saw my brother-in-law in the driveway smoking. He knew what the argument between my husband and me was about, but instead of stepping up to fix it, he offered to take me to my mom's house, saying that my husband could use some space for me. This made me cry the whole Uber ride to my mom's house. The reason I feel offended is that brother-in-law tends to be hurtful when he talks about others. I did all I could to win his approval, but he thinks less of me and thinks I'm childish, just like my husband says. My brother Tom is divorced and has 2 kids, Kim who's 19 and Liz who's nearly adult. Because our father was a deadbeat, he didn't want to raise us and ran off to avoid his child support obligations. Tom is barely around for his kids, yet expects to be praised and hailed as the world's most fabulous father for providing the bare minimum. Tom expects his ex-wife, Rose, to schedule all the kids' events, appointments, and constantly remind him of all the kids' events like he's a child himself. Rose will notify Tom weeks before an appointment or event through email and their court-monitored messaging site. Then she'll send a follow-up reminder the week and the day before the event, including school events, where the school already sends Tom an email. Tom forgets and then blames Rose for being irresponsible, since it, quote, would take 10 seconds for Rose to send me a text. She knows I don't check my email or court-monitored site every day. Tom has reminders set on his phone for Facebook, but he can't be bothered to set up a calendar app. Kim told me that she can count on her hands how many of her events or appointments Tom has ever shown up to. The breaking point for Kim was when Tom forgot about her high school graduation and was instead out drinking with his friends. Kim is at college and has not spoken to Tom since her 18th birthday. Instead of this being a wake-up call for Tom, he again blames Rose and expects to be hailed as the world's greatest father because he financially provides the bare minimum and still is never there for Liz. Tom gets Liz for 10 days a month, and Liz says that Tom is never there and she's just stuck house and dog sitting. Liz said that Tom couldn't remember one of her friends or teachers when she pressed him about it. While visiting our mother's house, Tom complained because he had not shown up to Liz's driving test, where she got her license, and blamed Rose again. Tom then complained about Liz because, quote, now talking to her is like pulling teeth, and how, quote, she tries to make me feel unloved in my own home. Her mother's turned her into an inconsiderate brat. I was biting my tongue before, but Tom insulting his daughter that way made me see red. So I snapped that, Tom, you're a pathetic excuse for a father. How can you expect people to praise you when you give as few praises about Kim and Liz as our father did for us? Tom screamed his head off, but I left. Several people are calling me an idiot because, unlike me, Tom was old enough to remember when our father left, and I was out of line to throw that trauma in his face, essentially. Also, Tom didn't have someone to model how a father should act. But instead of trying to gently correct him, which I've tried many times in the past, I insulted and used profanity toward Tom. I think everything I said was true and deserved. And no matter what, crappy childhoods don't excuse crappy adult behavior. Am I the idiot? Oh, not the idiot. Ignore those several people. Every time Tom brags about how great he is, call him on it. Every single time. Once he learns that he can't pull this crap in your presence, he'll probably stop. You're acting as though his statements make your blood boil. Your blood should be boiling. While you could have dealt with this better and more tactfully, your brother is an idiot, and sooner or later someone would have said as such to him, probably one of his kids. So maybe it was better that you got the lashback instead of them. Many folks grow up with deadbeat parents, and they become stellar parents because they very much do not want to be like their own were. They don't want their children to experience things that they did. Just because your dad sucked does not give you a free pass to be like it too. My parents live in the UK while I live overseas. My cousin 21 also lives in the UK and is pregnant with her first child. Her parents live overseas. However, it is normal in our culture to stay with your parents for the first month or so after you give birth, so they can help with the baby and help you get back on your feet. My dad is her closest relative in the UK, so she asked my parents if she could stay with them after she gave birth, and they agreed. Now, the house is jointly owned by Mom, Dad, and I. There are 2 guest rooms as well as my room, which isn't occupied when I'm not there. The larger guest room is only slightly smaller than my room, but has an ensuite. I go back home every 2 to 3 months and put a lot of money into renovating my room, and there are also lots of baby supplies there for my own infant too. Think cot, a sleep nest, bathtub, car seat, etc. So my cousin is due anytime in the next fortnight, and this week she texted me to tell me she wants to use my room. I told her no, that's my space. It needs to be open for me to travel home. She said it was the nicest of the available rooms, and she needed to be comfortable while recovering from childbirth. Edit. She also said she wants to use my son's cot, car seat, and, quote, anything else there is to make my life easier after delivery. So basically, she wants to use my baby supplies instead of making sure she has her own. I said no, she couldn't just help herself to my space and belongings. But then she started having a meltdown at me over text, so I involved my parents. She got her mom involved, and now my aunt is arguing with my dad, saying he's allowing me to bully her pregnant daughter when she has nobody else to defend her, and how my dad should discipline me and be there for his niece. I don't think I'm in the wrong, but they're making such a huge deal. I'm wondering if maybe I am the idiot. She said it was the biggest of the available rooms, except it isn't available. Not the idiot, OP. Hate to say it, but you'll need a firm lock on that room. Your supplies will disappear otherwise. Cousin is an entitled pregnantzilla. First, it's your room. You have no obligation to share it. Second, there are 2 spare rooms she can use. It's not like she has to sleep on a couch. There are other available rooms. Third, she's a guest. She's a poor guest by making demands. Tell the aunt if she's so concerned, she can get her daughter a penthouse suite at the Hilton. If she wanted to be comfortable after childbirth, she would take the room with the ensuite bathroom. She wants to use all your baby furniture and supplies without having to get her own. I would bet she gave her mom some exaggerated story so that your aunt would try to bully you and your parents into letting your cousin have her way. If your aunt is mad, she should make arrangements to take her in. Your cousin is a moocher, and I feel your parents will have a hard time kicking her out once she's well planted. I'd make a surprise trip home for funsies. Also, to change the locks right before leaving, and being the only person with that key. You are one of the owners. This is some choosing beggar crap. We live on a block filled with kids, so every now and then, I like to get a bounce house and throw a little backyard party for them. I threw another one last week. I want my sons to have good memories with their neighbor kid friends because they all attend different schools. I told the parents about the party, and that was instead of an invite. I didn't invite the preteen girl who lives next door. Why? My God, she screams over everything. It's not even a scream. It's ear-piercing screeching. I cannot stand it. I can tune out the loud sounds from my boys and their friends, but not that girl screaming. It's like she sees a bug. She screams. She thinks someone is chasing her, and she screams. She jumps off a swing. She screams. I'm pretty sure it's for attention, but I can't spend my Saturday listening to it in my backyard. I'd end up yelling at her, and I don't want to do that or come across as an angry dad. Her parents did ask me if something was wrong because she wasn't invited. I bluntly told them that I couldn't take that screaming. They said she was no louder than any other kid. No, she's much louder. I told them I didn't want to discuss it any further, but if and when she can stop that screaming, I'll be more than happy to invite her to my backyard parties. They were deeply offended. I'm not looking for suggestions to lessen her screaming or possible explanations for her screaming. I just don't want to hear it or be around it. So, am I the idiot because I purposely didn't invite a neighbor girl to a party because she screams at everything and explain that to her parents who were offended? Not the idiot. Her parents are the idiots here. It sucks for the kid, but this may wake mom and dad up to the real-life consequences of not setting behavioral boundaries for their child. Letting kids constantly scream, aside from being inconsiderate to everyone else in earshot, is just bad parenting and unsafe. Her age is 3rd grade for most kids. That's old enough to be taught basic limits, and the reasoning of screaming is for emergencies only. You're free to invite whoever you want to your home and exclude whomever. You didn't try to parent the child. You told the parents when and if she stopped screaming, she could be invited. All kids should be taught that there is a time and a place for behaviors. If at their house there's no volume limit, fine. But it's also as simple as saying that at Mrs. X's house, we have to use our indoor voices at all times. Your party, your guest list. Simple as that. You are the idiot. You invited every single kid but her, so she'll see all the kids there, and she'll know she was the only one not invited. I understand that you don't want to deal with an annoying child, but that's mean. It'd be different if she was a bully or was mean to the other kids, but excluding her because she's loud isn't nice. And again, she literally lives next door. I hope the parents take her away that day so she won't have to see the other kids having fun and wonder why she isn't allowed to come. I proposed to my girlfriend of 7 years, and I don't think anyone was surprised, but it's still a big deal to us. So we wanted to make a thing about it. So we rented the event room at a fancy restaurant and invited the people most special to us for the big reveal. To keep the nature of the evening secret, we arranged for one-on-one dinners with each attendee. We made sure to pick a day when everyone was free. These were just our best friends and closest family, so we almost managed it. The only person who said she couldn't make it was my mom. She said she was going to a concert that night. We couldn't reschedule, so I decided I would call her when her concert was over and have everyone break the news to her as a group, so she would still be somewhat included. So that's what sort of happened. The dinner started at 8. Everyone got there and were super surprised to see each other. I led them to the room and my girlfriend showed everyone the ring. There were congratulations, food, drinks, and revelry. My mom said her concert ended at 9, so at 9:30 I called her. When she answered, everyone greeted her, and she asked what was going on. I told her. She said she would talk to me later and hung up. She's incredibly upset that I let her miss my engagement party for a concert. She says I should have told her, but that would have ruined the surprise. My mom isn't good at keeping secrets. I'm her only son and she's devastated she missed this once-in-a-lifetime event. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I'm sure she would have dropped that concert immediately. It's your mom, for God's sake, not a friend. I get why she's upset. It was more important to you to surprise the rest of your guests than to have your mom there. Really? Dude, the surprise was more important than having your mom there. You could have just said, listen, it's a significant dinner. I need you there. Please come and you'll be happy you did. The worst part of this is that you don't feel remorse or regret for hurting your mom, and you cannot make it up to her. Honestly, keeping things a secret for the surprise factor is overrated. Sure, it's nice to see their immediate reaction for 10 seconds, but the risk is that it leads to unintended consequences where people don't prioritize attending because they didn't realize how big of a deal it was. You had already proposed to your girlfriend, but wanted to throw a surprise engagement party for everyone else. Why? Particularly when you said that this wouldn't be surprising to anyone. You should have told your mother that it was an engagement party. The more I think of it, the whole thing reeks of narcissism. First telling people that you're having dinner with them, and then when those people arrive, telling them that you're throwing yourself your own surprise engagement party, and that they're attending whether they want to or not. Ugh, you're practically screaming, look at me, congratulate me. Aren't you happy for me? Isn't it great that everything is all about me? But ironically, you didn't include the one person at the party who was most likely to feel that exuberant over the engagement.